Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas! In the name of God who loves us and calls us to respond, Amen. This past week was, for me, spectacular. Last year this time, you remember I was just coming in from officer training school, thrust into the Christmas Eve services, my first Christmas Eve here at St. Mark's. The whole thing was kind of surreal, a whirlwind, and all I really remember was that Christmas happened for me when Margot marched right out there and offered her solo. That was really all my Christmas needed that year. This year, I felt a lot more present to all of the services, but especially more so to the pageant. The creative writing of our own Lily Dodge, the care taken by each of the kids in their roles in the pageant. And I think in the spirit of Nancy's sermon, what I was most astounded by was how our kids who had rehearsed for many weeks were like the lead orienters to the kids who just came that day so that they could have a fulsome encounter and experience with the pageant story. So I've been thinking about memories of Christmas pageants. And if I recall, I was in at least one stage production of the best Christmas pageant ever at my local community theater back in South Carolina. That play is adapted for stage from a children's novel written by Barbara Robinson, and it tells the story of 6 misfit children from the Herdman family who end up starring in the town's Sunday school Christmas pageant. To give you some idea of the Herdmans, outside of the United States, the book is titled and marketed as The Worst Kids in the World. Imogene, Ralph, Claude, Ollie, Leroy, and Gladys Herdman are all presented as delinquent, rowdy, and unkempt, known for their cigar smoking, cussing, drinking, shoplifting, and bullying. Even as they don't do well progressing through each grade in school, no teacher dare keep one of them back in case they have 2 of them in their class at the same time. In one lunchroom altercation with a young boy named Charlie Bradley, Charlie mentions that no matter how many times the Herdmans steal his lunch, he'll always get as many snacks as he can eat at Sunday school. Oops. You see, with a new place to find food and living at the time on welfare, you might guess where the Herdmans showed up the next Sunday morning. It happened to be the Sunday when the church announced the auditions for the annual Christmas pageant, which Charlie's mother, the aptly named Grace, was pressured into directing due to a last-minute conflict with the longtime director. The Herdmans show an interest in the pageant and, as is their way, threaten every other kid against auditioning for any role. So Imogene gets cast as Mary, Ralph as Joseph, Claude, Ollie, and Leroy as the Magi, and Gladys as the angel of the Lord, after which she likens her character to a role in the Amazing Comics. Having never heard this particular story before, the unkempt, disheveled Herdmans help the audience, the readers, to realize just how unkempt and disheveled the Christmas story is. That the innkeeper forced a pregnant woman and her baby to sleep in a barn? That there was a holy family on the run from some king named Herod who wanted to kill the baby Jesus? After a disastrous rehearsal, when no one in town would volunteer their baby to be the baby Jesus, Grace, the director, is brought to prayer in a whole new dimension, having to trust that everything will be okay. As reviewer Jerry Buck writes of the film adaptation, everyone in town is expecting the Christmas pageant to be a disaster, and they all pile into the church, standing room only. But the herdmen's unconventional performances actually make the whole pageant seem and feel much more realistic. Instead of walking on and off stage like actors would, the herdmen are always a little uncertain about where and when to go and what to do, as you might imagine the real Holy Family was, or the Magi for that. Instead of laying the doll representing Jesus in the manger, Imogene insists on holding it the whole time as if it were her own child. The wise men choose to bring the baby Jesus a ham from their own welfare basket instead of that old crummy frankincense and myrrh from the story. The shepherds are sufficiently terrified of the angel Gladys to look authentically awed by the announcement of Jesus' birth. And famously, after missing her cue a couple of times, Gladys rushes out and says, "Hey, unto you a child is born, and he's in the barn. He's in the barn. Go on," as he shoos the shepherds to the barn. And during the final scene, the narrator looks over from the choir who is singing and is thunderstruck as it appears that Imogene, playing Mother Mary, starts to cry. By common agreement, it is the best Christmas pageant the town has ever had. Now, I tell this story this morning, one, because it is a great Christmas story. It shows us how impactful a profound encounter with the Incarnation can be. If there can be peace with the herdmans, surely there's a shot at peace in our world. But ever the theologian, there is a whole other way that Barbara Robinson's story shows us the true meaning of Christmas. You see, it isn't just that the herdmans experience the story of the Incarnation in a new way, but that we, the reader or the audience, also experience it in a new way. Yes, even on the fifth day of Christmas, we can still experience the Incarnation in a new way. After all, how often is it in the early scriptures that humans reflect upon a God who is strange, hostile even, rowdy, cursing, unkempt, tyrannical, bullying even? You can't read through the Old Testament without getting the sense of the God that we encounter might make us think, well, more of the herdmans than anything that is revealed in Jesus. And yet, this is the same God who humanity has struggled to know, this God who reveals himself in the fullness of time in human form, taking on flesh. And so perhaps there is another incarnation story here that we miss if we're not careful. That indeed at Christmas, the Word became flesh. God became human. And so did the herdmans. previously dismissing them for many good and many more not so good reasons, we receive the transformative power of the incarnation when we remember that the herdmans are human beings too. This is important for us at St. Mark's in our transition, as we continue working on how we build what Robert Putnam called in his work, bridging social capital. You may recall my mention of his work back in August, prior to the beginning of the ministry year. The herdmans, you see, were a bridging opportunity for the community. Originally, around a shared sense of catastrophe, but ultimately, in the end, out of a profound experience of their witness. Our work continues here to build bridging social capital or connection. And I'm excited for some of the forums we have coming up. Our next Becoming Beloved community speaker in our series. Other ways of building this together in our transition. My hope on the cusp of the new year, as life for churches continues to be upended by the realignment of our spiritual identities, of our prayers consistently plagued by a warring world, and as we suffer one another in the politics of our age, as we confront our skewed projections of folks like the herdmans among whom we live and work. My hope is that we'll take these memories of pageants gone by and remember the incarnation teaches us that every child is worth all that God is worth, that we are, all of us, flesh and blood, adopted children of God, and that even your worst enemy, the person you haven't liked or the person who hasn't liked you, the bully who won't leave you alone, the poor, the outcast, the prisoner, the immigrant, the disinherited, the disheveled, all of them know the struggle and suffering of the human experience because indeed they are human beings, flesh and blood, children of God, just like you and me. So may this continue to be the best Christmas pageant ever, because the impact of a profound encounter with the incarnation means we must embrace the humanity that God embraced in us and point others to this awesome miracle. Unless we need another example, we just call on the angel Gladys. Hey, hey, unto you a child is born. He's in the barn. He's in the barn. Go on, go on. Amen.